Hello, welcome to the Creative Italian. I'm Maria and I am the Creative Italian. My channel is all about making jewelry using crochet and also soldering techniques. If you are new to my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing. And also, if you like any of my videos, if you give me the thumbs up, that will really help me grow my channel. Today, you guys, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on this very easy crochet beaded lariat necklace. For those of you that are beginners to either jewelry or even crocheting, this is a great project. It doesn't take a lot of time, it's not complicated, and it's just a whole lot of fun to do. So let's go ahead and get started with the supplies that I'm going to be using for this project first. For this lariat necklace that measures 21 inches long from the end of the crystal all the way to the end of the loop right here, and there's a total of 35 beads on this particular lariat necklace. Most of them measure 8 millimeters, except for the rose quartz hematite beads on here. They measure 6 millimeters. And this crystal is, I think 12 or 15 millimeters. Okay, so for the project, I'm going to be using a ruler, some snippers, 2.35 millimeter crochet hook, hypo cement, GS hypo cement. This is my insurance when I'm crocheting jewelry because it helps hold the knots and everything together. I never have to worry about something unraveling or coming apart. This is Fire Mountain Gems 0.5 millimeter green cotton cord that I'm using here. And I've got some 8 millimeter beads here. I've got howlite, hematite, amazonite, agate, pink jade, just a very, let's see, I've also got some white jasper. Excuse me. I've got some rose quartz, 6 millimeter hematite beads, and this amethyst, this one's about 8 millimeter, and this one's about 9 or 10 millimeter. And then these are just some other ideas that you can use when you want to finish off your lariat. Like this is a top drill cherry blossom agate bead, which I just love cherry blossom. I love the texture. They're all just a little bit different. And this is a crystal from a crystal chandelier. It's got holes at the top, holes at the bottom, so you could easily use one of those as well. I'm going to measure for this necklace. I'm going to make it 21 inches again. And so I'm going to cut cord 2.5 times more than what I need for the finished length. And that is going to be about 54 inches. So I'm going to go 12, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then, whoops, and then about 6, maybe a little bit more than 6. You know what? I always rather have more cord than not enough. Okay, so now, before I start, wait a minute. I'm going to go ahead and add all my beads on here. Now, even though I have 35 beads on here, I had almost 50 beads on here when I was making it, because I would measure as I crocheted, if that makes any sense. So put on a whole lot more beads than what you think you might end up using. But before I add on the beads, I want to cut this into a nice sharp point. And I love the cotton, but sometimes I have to cut it while I'm adding on beads because it'll flatten out and it won't go through the hole. So you'll find that to be the case with cotton cord. But other than that, excuse me, that's just a little minor thing that I have to do when I'm adding on beads. For me, it's just not a big deal. So I'm just going to keep adding on beads. I'm probably going to add on, you know, close to 45 or 50 beads, you know, just because I don't really know for sure how many beads it's going to take, because sometimes my crochet can be a little bit tighter or a little bit looser on different days, if that makes any sense. I know those of you that crochet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It can vary. So this crochet happened to be, the stitches happen to be kind of tight. So who knows, I might decide to crochet loose, which will make the necklace longer, faster, when the chains are a little bit looser as opposed to tight in between each bead. So I've added my beads, and I have about 4. I thought I was going to put on 40, but I decided it's going to be more like 45. Okay, so now I've got my beads on, but before I start crocheting, I want to figure out what do I want on this loop right here, because this is going to be the beginning of the necklace. I'm going to do exactly what I did here, 4 8mm beads and 4 6mm beads, which is the rose gold hematite, in between each one. And so I'm going to go ahead and put those on now. One. I don't know what gemstone this is. It begins with a C, and I don't know how to pronounce it very good, but it is a gemstone. And another hematite, rose gold. This is fluoronite. I love fluoronite. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right either. Fluorite. Okay, see how that cord is starting to get kind of stubbly? I have to do a real sharp point, and then it'll go right through, just like that. Sometimes you can use a little bit of nail polish and kind of stiffen up the point so you don't have to keep cutting it. That seems to be helpful too. And I don't mean to keep moving my camera here. And one more hematite, rose gold, and then an amazonite right here. Okay, so I want to measure from the first bead here on the string. I want to measure 6 inches, maybe 6.5 or something like that. Well, 6 would be good. Okay, to the end of the bead. Just like that, because I want a long tail when I get ready to tie this in a circle. So there's my 6 inches on my right, in my right hand, and all I'm going to do is just tie this in a knot. Just as simple as that. Just like that. And I'm going to do 2 knots. Like so. And this, before you finish, before you move on, you want to take whatever you're going to use on the end. You want to make sure you pass it through. You don't want to wait until you finish the necklace and then you can't get your, you know, the other end of your necklace through the hole. So that fits perfectly. So I got 2 knots in there. And now I'm going to use my GS Hypo Cement. And I'm going to go ahead and add some of the GS Hypo Cement all around the knot. It does dry clear. This is your insurance, you guys, from anything falling apart. And it dries pretty quickly. Okay, what I forgot to say, you do not want to cut this tail off. You want to leave it on while you're working on your project, okay? Giving this plenty of time to dry, and we'll go over that, you know, after we get done here. Okay, so this, now from here on, I'm just doing a chain stitch. That's all I'm doing. There's 3 chain stitches in between each bead on the Lariat necklace that you see here. If you want the beads to be further apart, then you're going to use more chain stitches in between each bead. If you want them to be closer together, then of course you would use less chain stitches. Also, if you are considering using larger beads, like a 10mm bead or a 12mm bead, I suggest doing about 5 chains or maybe even 6 chains in between, because it just looks better. It looks more balanced. Okay, so I'm going to do a chain stitch here. And all I'm going to do is wrap it around my wrap it around my index finger here. Wrap it around twice, and then I'm going to pull the back side over, and then pull the one behind that over again, and then pull this up and insert my hook, and then pull down so I can get it closer to the top of my ring here. So I like to get it just as close as I can. And so, wait a minute. Okay, so what I'm using is I'm simply using a chain stitch that we use in crochet, okay? That's all I'm using. I use 3 chain stitches in between each of these 8mm beads, and even in between the smaller beads. So, you know, it depends on how far apart you want the beads to be. You want them to be further apart, use more stitches, more chain stitches. If you want them to be closer together, use less. But there's 3 in between each of these. Okay, now that I have my loop here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my chain. I'm going to wrap the cord around my finger twice. I'm going to take the back cord and pull it down over the front cord. Then I'm going to take that back cord and pull it down over the other. Oh God. Okay. Now that we got our loop, now it's time to do our crochet of the beads. I'm going to be using what we call a chain stitch in crochet. I use 3 chain stitches in between each of these beads. If you wanted to be further apart, you would use more chains. If you wanted to be closer together, you use less chains. So we want to be sure that we have these cords separate. We got our tail over here out of the way, okay? And then we've got our cord here that's holding all the beads. So what I'm going to do is to start my chain, and I make sure that this is not interfering, because this can be confusing, so just keep it out of the way. Go ahead and wrap the cord. I'm wrapping the cord around my finger, and this back loop, I'm going to pull it to the front. Then the back loop, I'm going to pull it to the front. Now it's time to do our crocheting. We've got 2 cords here. We got this, your end cord here, your 6-inch cord, okay, right here. We want to keep that out of the way. And we're going to create our, what we call a chain stitch with the cord where the beads are attached. I am doing 3 chain stitches in between each cord for this particular look. If you want the beads to be further apart, you'd use more chains. If you wanted to be closer together, you would use less. In this case, I used 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap the cord around my finger twice. Now I'm going to take the back cord and I'm going to bring it to the front. And now I'm going to take the back cord and I'm going to bring it to the front again. And then I'm going to take the back cord. Okay, now before we start our crocheting, this hypo cement has had plenty of time to dry, which is the reason I didn't want to cut this cord. So now I can go ahead and I can cut this cord like so. I don't have to worry about it falling apart. And then I'm going to use some more hypo cement on the part that I cut. And that just gives it a little bit more security, just like that. And I'm just going to let it dry for just a minute or 2. So now we're going to start the crochet part. And all I'm doing is a very simple chain stitch, is what we call it in crochet. And I did 3 chain stitches in between each of these beads. You could do more chain stitches if you want them further apart, or less chain stitches if you want them closer together. So to start the chain stitch, I'm going to wrap my cord around twice on my finger, and I'm take the back cord and pull it to the front, and then I'm going to take the back cord and then pull it to the front, and then I'm going to take the back cord, if I can get it. I'm going to take the back cord And I am going to start pulling here. As you can see, I'm going to get you up. And what I want to do is, I want this to be snug up at the top of this loop here. And I found the easiest way to do that is to take my crochet hook and just pull it in, just like that. And just pull on the cord. And there, I'm nice and tight right up at the top of this loop that I made here. And so now I got one loop, and so I'm going to do 3 chains before I add on a bead. Let me just tighten it up just a little bit more. It's kind of getting away from me just a little bit. When I want to tighten up a chain, if it feels like it's a little loose, I'll just go back and forth and back and forth. If y'all have never done a chain stitch before, at the end of the video, I'll show you a video where I actually teach this if you need a little bit more information. So that's one chain. I keep the cord tight on my index finger, and I keep my fingers close to the crochet hook, and then I go under the cord and then catch the cord and then pull it through. And I always like to move I like to move this back and forth, my hook back and forth, because it tightens everything up, because sometimes it can be inconsistent. It can be like one chain will be a little looser, one will be a little tighter. But if I go back and forth after each chain, I find that it's more consistent. So I'm going to bring my first bead up, and I'm going to come up with my hook, and I try to kind of stay just slightly below the end of the bead before I chain, because it keeps it tighter on the cord, as opposed to bringing my cord all the way up. I could do it that way, right? It's not a problem. But I find if I keep it down just a little bit and then come up and do my chain stitch, it keeps it tighter on the bead. In other words, the bead won't flip-flop around all over the place. I hope I'm making sense, you guys. Okay, so that's 1. And this is 2. And this is 3. Get this out of the way. Get all that out of the way. Okay, so I'm just going to keep adding beads as I go along here. And I'm going to be measuring as I go along until I get to almost 21 inches. And here, as you can see, I'm doing the same thing. See how it just keeps it really nice and straight on the cord. That's 1, 2, and 3. And again, I'm going to demonstrate here how to do that chain stitch. And then I'm going to go ahead and chain stitch everything on, measure it out, and then show you how I finished it on the end. So I'm going to bring that in. I want to keep this cord tight around my index finger. As you can see, the way I have the cord wrapped around my fingers, this is how you want it to look. And so, again, I come up the top, pull it in, tighten it up, 2, and 3, like so. So it keeps everything nice and neat, like so. If this is real loose, then, you know, the bleed, it'll just be flip-flopping all over the place, basically, has been my experience. Okay, let me show you one more time. And like I said, at the end of the video, I'll show you guys. I'm almost positive I have a video on just how to do a chain stitch. And if I don't, I will do a shorts on it. I think I did do one. Okay, so again, I have my cord over my index finger. I've got it underneath my pinky finger and my end finger, and I'm keeping it nice and tight, like so. And then coming up, pulling it in, tighten it up, tighten it up. Whoop. It sometimes gets away from me when I'm on the camera, you guys. And then tighten it up, just like that. Okay? All right. So I will be back in just a few minutes. But anyway, I want you to see how nice that looks. So when you're laying it, when you're wearing it, it's going to lay like so around the neck. It'll be nice and straight. Just finished adding on all the beads, and I counted them. And I got to the end of this bead right here, and it measures at 21 inches. Well, actually, it's a little bit less than 21, because by the time I put the bead on, this bead, this crystal bead, by the time I put that on the end, it's going to measure 21 or 22 inches, okay? So, with that being said, I still have this, excuse me, I still have this loop. I haven't cut my cord yet, you guys, okay? But I wanted you to see how nice and even that looks on the chain. See, I think my technique works really good. I probably learned it from somebody else, or maybe I came up with it myself. I don't know. I don't really remember. But see how nice it just lays so nice. You know, that little technique of moving the crochet hook back and forth. Okay, so right here, I've got this loop. So what I want to do is I want to cut it, but I want to have plenty of tail. You know, I'm going to cut it. I want it to be about 6 inches, my tail. So, let's see. So there's my loop. And, yeah. Just go ahead and cut it. It's always to have more than enough than not enough. There's nothing worse, you know, than not having enough cord. Okay, so I still got 3 chains right here. And let me flip this around. I'm going to end up having about 6 inches of cord to work with. I mean, that's way more than what I need, you guys. It truly is. But that's okay. That's all right. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is I'm going to add on this right here. I'm not going to crochet it on. I'm just going to tie it on. That's all I'm going to do. That's all I did on this one, is I tied it on. But I tied it on with a number of different knots. I don't know exactly how many I did on that other one, but I'll show you how I did it. What I did was I made a loop. Let me get all this out of the way so you can see clearly what I'm doing. What I did was, just to make it look nice, hang on, sorry. Okay. I just kind of I made a loop with my hand like that, and then I came around underneath the necklace, underneath my chains, and I just kept it up as close as I could to those knots. Okay, need to get it down a little bit more. Shoot, just bring it down. Okay, there you go. So I brought it down. Got it closer. Okay, then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to come around and I'm going to go in the same direction. I hope I'm making sense. I'm gonna go into the same, I'm gonna come under the cord and then come around the other side and then pull, just like so. It just makes it finish off a little nicer than just stacking knots on top of each other, you know, in every direction, in every other direction. And then again, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to come under, like so, and then bring my end around, and then pull. It'll make more sense as I get finished here, what it looks like. And I do that probably about 4 or 5 times. There we go again, just like so. And then pull. And you don't want to cut it yet. You want to pull as tight as you can. All right, so it ends up looking, let me bring that down a little bit. Yeah. It ends up looking like that. Yeah, it looks more finished off. Like this one. So I did the same thing, I think, on this one. Yeah, I did the same thing on this one, only I did it like 3 times. And I like it because I'm going in just one direction. So the loops kind of stack on top of each other. And it just gives it this nice organic finish. Pull that in just a little bit. There you go. That's it. Sometimes they'll separate. So all you gotta do is just take it and push it down. And it just looks like that. Now, but I don't want to cut this. I definitely do not want to cut this until I use some hypo cement, GS hypo cement. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that I go into the hole where the cord is coming out. I go in on both sides. I go all the way around, just like so. Okay, then I'll let that dry for a few minutes, for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then I'll come back in and cut that and add some more. So I'm just gonna let that dry for just a minute or 2, and then I'll come back and show you how I do that, how much I put in. I'll let that dry a little bit, and now I'm going to snip it close to my loop there and lay it down. And then again, I'm doing the hypo cement right where I cut it. The great thing about GS hypo cement is it dries clear. I mean, you never even know that it was on there. And I go all the way around it. I go under it, on top of it, and all the way around. And then I just leave it and just let it dry, you know, for, just to be on the safe side, I would let it dry for 30 minutes before I wore it, okay? I mean, it dries before then, but that's just how I do it because I want to make sure everything's good. So here's the finished project, the Lariat. I just think it turned out so beautiful. Yep, it's just going to be so much fun for y'all to make these. You'll have to leave a comment and let me know how it works out for you. There you go. I think it turned out really good. I hope you had fun with it. If you are new to my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing. If you like any of my videos, if you'll give me the thumbs up, it'll really help me grow my channel. And also, there is a video right here if you want to check out and see step by step how I start a chain stitch, a crochet chain stitch for a necklace or a bracelet. It's right up there, so go check it out. And thanks for coming by, and I'll be back. Alrighty, bye-bye.